Tennessee Congressman Steve Cohen, who's on the Judiciary Committee and backs impeachment. I know you agreed to an interview with me. Would you be willing to also take a question from Ellie?
Sure.
You, sir, have been forceful, and you've backed impeachment. And I think Ellie is talking about some of your colleagues, and he's so into it, I'm going to let you go first. What do you want to know?
What is the thing in the Mueller report that you are still waiting for before you can move forward
or
with
his colleagues?
You and your colleagues are waiting for before you can move forward with impeachment?
I think you have to ask my speaker, who I think the world of, that question, because I'm there. I think Nadler's pretty much there. Most of our committee's there, but you can't do it without the speaker. And
so when you put it that way, walk us through that, Congressman. What is the substantive and political activity that goes on? Because the nation's watching. You're holding this hearing today. It's still going. We showed clips, and we're going to show more as it goes. And you're educating the public. But what are you and your colleagues saying to, as you put it, a speaker that is your leader that you respect?
Well, I think that it would be beneficial to us because of our oath of office to bring impeachment. I think he deserves it. I think he's committed impeachable offenses. I think it would get, politically, it would get our base out. And I think this election in 2020 is about your base coming out to vote. That's beyond the imperative of responding to your oath and acting on it. And I also think that the Senate, while they won't convict, I think that if the hearings come up and having impeachment hearings or an impeachment inquiry, we'll be able to get more witnesses, which Trump's trying to stop us from getting. McGahn and possibly even Barr, but certainly Mueller and Hope Hicks and the lady Donaldson to come before us, that the case will be made and more people will be for impeachment. And by the time it gets to the Senate, they won't vote to impeach him, but the Republicans who don't, like Cory Gardner, who probably won't, and Collins and McSally, they will be toast. Because even the red folks in their states will vote against him for staying with Moby Dick when he's going down to the bottom of the sea.
You know, you just put it quite clearly and succinctly. I haven't heard other members of Congress, at least, put it that way. The notion that the pressure only goes against the Democrats, you could never win the Senate. You're saying the pressure may go very much the other direction, although, as we've pointed out, obviously a constitutional matter has to be adjudicated on something beyond bare-knuckled politics, but that's part of the debate. I wonder what you think of the significance of Attorney General Barr, who is nothing if not a muscular proponent of his available authorities, folding today on something that I would argue I've covered he legally could continue to fight. In other words, it would be perfectly lawful for the Attorney General to maintain the position that he's not going to give the underlying Mueller docs. It appears, as you say, Chairman Nadler's assertiveness worked, and he's getting them. Does that, in your view, say anything about the power of pressure that your party could continue to use?
Well, we'll have to see what the documents involve.
Right.
We have an opportunity this week, each member of the Judiciary Committee, to go and view them, and I'll be doing that. I'm afraid that they're not going to be as much as we'd like them to be. The main documents that I want to see are the ones before the grand jury. Those are the questions and the answers that were intended to produce indictments and proof to convict people of crimes.
Interesting.
That's what we need to see, and also not just obstruction, but also in quote-unquote collusion, which we all know is not the right legal term, but could be an impeachable term, with Russia. And Mueller made it clear that there were like 100 and something instances of the Trump campaign and the Russians getting together and talking and communicating, et cetera. And they had, and Trump did his excuse for his son, like Don Jr. wasn't in school today. Well, Don Jr. was there because he was interested in adoptions, which was a big lie. And if he lied about that meeting, why did he lie about it? He lied about it because he didn't want us to know the real reason for that meeting.
Interesting.
There's a difference in the burden of proof, which I brought out with in the hearing today and in questioning Joyce. You know, Mueller had to deal with guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. For an impeachment, you only deal with basically a preponderance of the evidence. And there's a big difference. Because Mueller didn't have a guilt beyond a reasonable doubt and a conspiracy with an overt act, that doesn't mean that the information he has in that report doesn't show that there was collusion and collusion to a preponderance of the evidence, and certainly on obstruction of justice.
Sir, when you lay it out like that, you're also reminding the viewers who heard Mueller speak about the lane here between what he did with his role and what he handed off, because he made it clear in his brief remarks this was handing it off to the non-criminal process, not the higher standards you mentioned, but whether and if Congress wants to do something about it. On those documents, I want to read these to you and then get the professor back in. Chairman Nadler, with regard to what you said you just won from DOJ, says he's most interested in Trump's attempts to fire Mueller, the request to McGahn to create a fraudulent record denying the incident, and the efforts to get Sessions to undo his recusal. Are those of interest to you, or what else do you want to know from these new materials you're getting?
Is that me or the professor?
You, and then I was going to have the professor get in after you.
Well, I think those are the main points we wanted to see, and I think Barbara McQuaid set them out well, that it was the issue about McGahn, him telling McGahn to fire Mueller and then to ask Sessions to recuse, reverse his recusal, and the fact that he asked him to give false testimony and to put a memo in to say he never really did that. These are direct obstruction of justice, and nobody can look at that and see anything but obstruction of justice. The president's guilty of that. And I think we had a successful hearing. It's just how many people saw it, I don't know. It should have been on MSNBC, it should have been on CNN, it should have been on Fox, and not just on C-SPAN 3.
Do you think we, the media, made a mistake there in not covering it?
I definitely think the media did, and I think all three of the major stations should have. C-SPAN 3 doesn't have the coverage. There was important and witnesses, people who were knowledgeable and experts, and their testimony and their opinion should have been heard.
Well, as you know, our tradition on this show is we seek input from all sides, and we take constructive criticism, so you got to state your view of that on the record. The final thought or question from Professor.
I just want to know, what exactly are you going to find here? What's the smoking gun for you? Because I worry that you've perhaps overplayed your hand for the American people in saying this is breakthrough evidence, when in fact, maybe it's not the smoking gun that you're hoping for. What do you need to see in order to make this go forward?
Well, I don't know if there's a smoking gun. I think the Mueller report is a smoking gun. It's a cannon. It's just nobody read it, nobody looked at it. It's like, you know, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, does it make a sound? The Mueller report is there. It's clear that he obstructed justice, and if we got to see all of the redacted testimony, we might also see collusion. The problem is people didn't read it. Barr was able to poison the people's minds with his 3.5-page synopsis saying no collusion, no obstruction. And then he gave his opinion in a press conference 2 hours before it was released. They effectively got the Trump team to buy the malarkey that they were putting out, which was not what the Mueller report was about. The Mueller report is a smoking cannon.
Congressman Cohen, really appreciate you making time on a busy night where the hearing's still going and you're in a busy place in the Congress, and you're giving us your views and your thoughts. I appreciate it, Professor.
You're welcome, Ari, but Heidi Schreck should be the one, she didn't win the Tony last night, but she's the Constitution, and she should be the one to tell
everybody. You're talking about her Broadway show?
Cranston. Yeah, I've been to the show. She's great. It's a great show.
It's a good show.
It's a good show.
Well, we'll let her know. We're a day late for the Tonys, but quite topical. Congressman Cohen, Melissa Murray, Ellie Mistal, learn a lot from each of you. A fascinating exchange.